Hello, class. So I think the next thing I'm going to add to here is, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a mountain in the background. So again, this is meant to be a house like in the woods or in the mountains, and so adding that detail will be nice. Now, I don't think we're going to have to render for this assignment a sky and a ground plane too much. You could over render. You could do it. You could over render. We're sort of creating this graphic thing, but I think this is a really good lesson because A, it's going to show you how to use an image in Illustrator, which can be done, but also I think it's very useful if you're like doing just elevations, even if they're CAD elevations, but you want to throw in a background like mountains or a cityscape or trees or whatever that case might be, just adding one element to the background of your drawing, even if you don't do anything else other than good line weights, can really make an interesting look and help set the scene. So another important lesson that you can use and take with you as you're moving along. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock this CAD layer. If you hadn't done so, I can do that. And what I've already done is I've already gone to Google Images and I typed in Catskill Mountains and I found a set of mountains that I like. You may already have them from a past assignment. I'm purposely using different ones just to do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the mountains that I want, which is just up in here first, and make a little file to be used in Illustrator. So I think it's going to be easier. Let's see, if I unlock this layer, I'm going to start with maybe this rectangle marquee and just grab the bottom and just delete the bottom right off because I don't want any of this farm works. I just want the mountains. I'll just delete that right out just like that and press Control D to deselect. Now the sky is going to be a little bit more tricky, but I think if I use the magic wand a few times, I can get this to go. And I might delete it and see that there's leftovers and just keep using the magic wand and deleting the sky away. Oops, I went too far, so Control D. Try that again. That's working. And actually, if I got lots of stuff up here, I can just, to a certain degree, take a marquee rectangle and delete that part away like that. There's a little bit in there. I can go to, any selection set. I'm just going to go to Polygon Lasso to delete some of these little objects here. And there's little things in here as well. If you have to do it a couple times, whatever it takes, just delete it out and you just have your mountains just like this. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to crop this down because I have lots of extra space. So I'm going to click over here and go to crop, pull my top down and my bottom up to there and crop it. And then I'm just going to save this as a PNG, okay? Because I'm going to go File, Save As, save it to wherever you need to, and I'm going to call it Mountains. Okay, and save it. You could do a Photoshop file. Actually, Photoshop file would be fine. PNG would be a little bit smaller. PNG has transparency. That's why we want it. A JPEG will turn the checkerboard pattern, which is transparent, into white. In our case, it probably won't matter because we're not necessarily going to put anything behind it. But, in case you did, PNG makes it good. So you can hit save and then just hit OK and jump back to Illustrator. Now, first we're going to start by making a new layer. I'm going to make all the way in the back. It's the background. So the lowest layer will be behind everything. And I'm going to call it mountain. Okay. And to get that image in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, Place. Okay. And find where you saved it, which mine is right here. Now, before you go and hit place, I want to point out this one thing. Automatically, Illustrator is going to have this link checked. What that means is it's not going to put the image in your Illustrator file. It's always going to be referencing where you pull it from. So if you're on some random computer and put it on the desktop or some random thumb drive that you're using, every time you open this file, you will need that same computer desktop or flash drive or whatever it is if you have it checked. I think the safe thing to do, even though it'll increase your file size a bit, is to uncheck link. And it's going to then put the file work in here. So do that and then hit place and it'll come in. Then click and hold and pull just to start scaling it in. And you see we have it in the file. Now we just need to scale it, put it in, move it as we need to, make some tweaks to it. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to pretty much set it right at the horizon line, which is that black line across the bottom. And I'm going to sort of pull it. It doesn't have to be proportional, so I can make it as wide as I need to go. And then I'll make it as high as I feel like it wants to go, just to give it that effect. And it could be taller than the house. It could be shorter than the house, whatever the case might be. You might even try mirroring it. I mean, one thing that could be interesting is if I went to Object, Transform, and Reflect, I can mirror it around like this. And maybe the sort of scissors look of the mountain versus the roof could be interesting, right? Whatever you want to do. I'll keep it that way because I do think that looks interesting. And so there we go. We have some mountains. Now the reality is these mountains are very saturated, almost too much so. I really want to tone those back as if they're in the distance. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my transparency and just set the transparency way down. You can see it tones them way back. It just gives that little bit of detail, sets them in the back. Now my house color's pretty light, so I might even go lighter with these mountains, quite honestly, just to give some contrast between the mountains and my house. Something like that, just, it just sets the background a little bit, adds that detail. And oftentimes that's all you need, especially in sort of a graphic rendering like this. I'm not going for photoreal or anything like that. That said, again, if you wanted to, you could experiment with adding a gradient or a sky. You could get a picture of a sky and put that in here as well. You could get grass or paint this green or do whatever you want up front. And do that if you wanted to. I'm not going to because I'm going for this graphic style. And I think, again, and we're really making presentation boards, just adding to an elevation something like a mountain or a cityscape, if that's where it is, goes a long way, faded back like that. So I think that's a good basic skill to use. And so I will lock this layer. But before ending this particular video, I do just want to say one thing really quick, which is the reason why I painted all of this stuff white and didn't leave it transparent is because I knew I was going to add this mountain. If this was all white, if I didn't put a white object here, you would see through it, right? It would look like this. Let me find the right layer and turn it off. It would look like that. You would see the mountain behind it. That's why I added a white object for trim. Of course, if your trim is a color, of course you would need an object there. But but if it's white, that's why you also need white there as well. So with that, we're getting close to finishing up this assignment. We have a couple more videos, and I will see you in those.